Okay, Dottie will be home a little after midnight.
Okay. Now, Brad and Ashley, you listen to what Dottie says and be real good, okay?
Okay, Mom.
Okay.
Don't worry about us, Mrs. Anderson. We'll be fine.
Great. Give your dad 5, Brad. Atta boy.
Be good.
Bye, Ashley.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dottie.
So, what were the kids up to today?
Well, the usual. They went to
Excuse me, are you ready to order?
Yeah, we'll both have the special, and could we please have some water, too?
Oh, sure, I'll get that for you right away.
Thanks.
I really enjoy these nights out alone, hon. And I'm really looking forward to going to the theater tonight. I've been wanting to see this play for a long time.
Me, too. Nothing against the kids. I love them dearly, but sure is nice to have a night to ourselves once in a while.
Here we go. Oh, we're a little short on help tonight, so I have to answer that. Is there anything else I can get you right away?
No, we're fine. Take your time.
Thanks.
Cafe Casablanca, may I help you? Yes, I think so. Let me check. Yes, they're here. Who is this again?
Mr. and Mrs. Anderson?
Yes?
There's a phone call for you. It's the babysitter.
Unfortunately, this is a situation that happens to many parents. A pleasant evening out is interrupted or ruined because of a problem at home with the children or the babysitter. Most of the time, thank goodness, the problem isn't a serious one. In fact, often it's something that can be taken care of until the parents get home by a babysitter with more knowledge or experience. What we're going to do in this program is give you some suggestions or some information that you can use to make sure that everything is safe and secure while you're babysitting. That way, you can prevent a situation like this one. If a family asks you to babysit, that's a real compliment. It means they think you're responsible enough and mature enough to take care of their most precious possessions, their children. You know, there's a lot of responsibility involved while you're babysitting. It's more than just watching television with the kids or playing with them outside until the parents get home. In fact, while you're in charge, there's a lot to be aware of.
Some of the things we'll be talking about are maintaining a secure home while you're in charge, including the safe way to handle unexpected phone calls or visitors. We'll also look at fire safety. Do you know what to do if a fire breaks out while you're in charge? The children's safety will depend on you. We'll also look at safety in the kitchen, where most home accidents happen, and first aid. What would you do if a child suffered an injury while in your care? And we'll talk about children, the different age groups, and what to watch out for while they're in your care.
The first thing I want to point out to you is that the term babysitter applies to anybody who takes care of the children while the parents are gone, male or female, teen, preteen, grandma or grandpa. So this program is for everybody, male or female, the young and the not so young. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is home security, which is especially important if it's the first time you're working for a new employer. While you're babysitting, you must be extremely security conscious, and that involves a lot more than just locking doors. 15-year-old Bonnie is due here at the Webbers any minute now. Now, Bonnie's an experienced babysitter, but this is the first time that she's cared for the Weber children. They're a new family on the block, so there's a lot that she needs to know before the parents go away for the evening. Here she comes now. Let's go with Bonnie as she shows us the right way to start the evening off for the parents and the babysitter.
Hi, Mr. Weber.
Yes?
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
Hi.
You're a little early, but I like that. All the kids are downstairs. Why don't we go down and say hello?
Okay,
Go
great.
ahead.
Children, this is Bonnie. She's going to be watching you while your mother and I go out tonight.
This is Timmy. He's 7 and the oldest.
Hi, Timmy.
And Jenny's almost 5. She'll want to help you with everything. Then there's Patrick, who just turned 2. You've heard of the terrible twos, haven't you?
Yeah.
And, oh, the baby is sleeping. Hopefully we'll stay that way. My wife will be down in a minute with all the instructions.
Okay. Timmy, what grade are you in? I'm in 2nd, and Jenny's in kindergarten.
Hon, this is Bonnie.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, too.
Oh, thank you. I guess you've already met the children.
Yes, we've met, and I'm sure we're going to be good friends.
Oh, I know you will. Excuse me.
Hon, why don't I take Bonnie around and show her how things work first before you give instructions on the kids?
That's a good idea.
Bonnie,
You
let's
wanna
start
be
upstairs.
changed?
Okay.
I think you need to be changed, don't you?
Okay. There are a total of 5 doors in the house, including the garage door. Has an automatic opener. I'll show you how that works in a minute. Let's look at the front door here. Has a standard deadbolt. You just twist it. It's locked. And make sure you lock it when we leave, okay?
Sure.
Oh, let's see what else. Oh, there's a spare key to the back door downstairs outside under the flower pot to the left of the door if you need it for anything, okay?
Sure.
All the windows in the house are locked and the blinds are drawn. Should stay that way. Okay. Oh, you see we have a fireplace? Of course, that shouldn't be used unless we're here to supervise.
Okay.
And over here are the sliding glass doors to the porch.
Okay.
You won't need to use these, but I think you should know how they lock.
Okay.
There's a lever behind the handle here. Catch, release.
Okay. Does this door work the same way?
It's the exact same kind of door.
Okay.
Oh, there's a flashlight in the drawer next to the stove if you ever need that for
Okay.
anything. Let me show you the children's rooms now.
Okay.
And this is Jenny's room.
It's really cute.
Thank you. Oh, let me show you how the windows work.
Okay.
All the windows in the house are exactly the same.
Okay.
If they're closed, they're automatically locked because there's a spring-loaded catch at the top. Now, if you ever need to open the windows, I don't think you will, but if you do, you should know how they work. Just pull back and lift up.
Okay.
Okay? And just a couple more things to show you, we'll be through.
Okay.
And the kitchen phone is over in the corner.
Okay.
So did you get the tour?
Yes, you have a very nice home.
Oh, thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I'm just going to give them a little something to eat. If you'd like a soda later on, please help yourself.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Weber, is there any special time you like the children in bed?
Yes. Patrick can go to bed about 8 or 8:30. He's getting a little bit cranky now, so... But he's already had his bath, so you just need to put him in his pajamas. Okay, sweetheart. Jenny and Timmy can stay up until 9 or 9:30. It's not a school night. And let's see, I've already told you about the baby.
Mama, can we make hot chocolate later on?
Well, of course you can, sweetheart. Bonnie can supervise with you, the same way as we do when we make it, okay?
Okay.
You can let her help you get everything out and ready, but I don't let her use the stove yet. Now, there's apple juice in here for Patrick, and there's some cookies and crackers in the cabinet. Let's see, what else can you think of, Bonnie?
If you don't mind, Mrs. Weber, there are a couple of things I'd like to write down, just in case.
Sure. What?
I know you mentioned where you're going. Would you mind writing down the address and also a phone number there where you could be reached?
Of course. That's an excellent idea. Anything else?
Yes. Is there a neighbor in the area I could call on, just in case?
Okay. I'll write that down, too.
Another thing, are you expecting any visitors or phone calls while you're out?
Oh, that reminds me. There's a woman who does some sewing for me, a Mrs. Grant, Sheila Grant, who might stop by just to drop off a skirt that she's hemmed for me. But if she does, it shouldn't be any later than 9 or so. And no phone calls, as far as I know, unless we call. Hun, how about you?
Are you asking about phone calls? No, I'm not expecting any.
Oh, and Bonnie, the phone numbers for both the police and the fire departments are on the counter behind Timmy right next to the phone, okay?
Good. That was my next question.
Anything else, Bonnie?
Just one more thing. I want to make sure I have all of this right. You're Mr. and Mrs. Robert Weber.
Mm-hmm.
Your address here is 503 Morris Lane, and the telephone number is 874-0720.
That's right, and we're running late, hon. We'd better get going. We don't want to miss the first act.
In just these first few minutes, Bonnie has learned several things that are vital to maintaining a secure home. And they're things that every babysitter should know before the parents leave the house. Know the name of the family you're sitting for, their full address and phone number in case you have to report an emergency there. Know where the parents are going, when they're expected back, and if possible, a phone number where they can be reached. Know where all of the emergency telephone numbers are located. Know where all of the doors are located, including any automatic garage doors, and how they lock. Know the name and phone number of a neighbor you can call on in an emergency. And know where a flashlight is and where any keys might be hidden. Be sure to write down all of this information we just discussed so you can have it at your fingertips. Also, be sure to follow any ground rules the parents have about using the TV or the stereo or raiding the refrigerator.
Okay, we'll be home before midnight.
Okay. Now, I want everybody to do exactly as Bonnie says, because when we're not home, she's in charge, okay?
Have a good time and don't worry about us.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart.
After the parents leave, the responsibility for maintaining safety and security is yours. And although some of you are young teenagers or preteens, this is a very adult responsibility, and it's one you shouldn't take lightly. If you maintain a safe and secure environment, you can usually prevent most of the problems that babysitters run into. We've already seen what to do before the parents leave. Now here are a few pointers for after they're gone. First, make sure all of the doors are locked, and at night, pull the shades. Turn on any outside lights and leave them on until the parents return. If the television or stereo's on, turn down the volume so that you can hear what's going on in the house at all times. This is very important if you have an infant or other children sleeping. Don't use the telephone for personal calls. Use it only when necessary, in case the parents are trying to call in to check on things. Remember, when you're on the phone, you're not giving 100% of your attention to your job, keeping the children safe and secure. The same goes for having friends over. They're another distraction. In fact, it's a good idea to not even tell your friends that you're babysitting, so they won't be tempted to call or visit you. There are a few other security measures you should know, and these involve unexpected telephone calls or visitors to the door. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle each of these situations. This is Dottie, a very inexperienced babysitter, and it shows by the way she's handling an unexpected phone call.
Give it to me.
Is that the phone? Hello? No, Mrs. Anderson isn't here. No, he isn't here either. I'm the babysitter. There's no one here except me and the kids. I don't think the Andersons will be home until after midnight or so. Is there anything I can do for you?
That's a perfect example of what not to do. Dottie's just made several serious mistakes. When you get an unexpected phone call, never ever identify yourself as the babysitter to anyone. The only exception is if you call the police or fire departments. Identifying yourself as the babysitter can only encourage those who may intend harm to you or the children. Never say that the parents are away, where they've gone, or when they'll return. If the caller keeps asking, simply say, "They'll be back any minute now," or "sometime very soon." Offer to take a message so the call can be returned. Be brief and businesslike. Don't offer any other information, and don't encourage any further conversation. And never give out the phone number where you are or the address if the caller should ask for it. Now, let's watch Bonnie demonstrate the right way.
Hello.
Who's this?
This is the Weber residence. May I help you?
I'd like to speak to Bob. Is this Linda?
I'm sorry. Mr. Weber's not available at the moment. May I take a message?
Yeah, this is Charlie from the carpool. Have him give me a call. He's got the number. When's he gonna get home? Do you know?
Anytime soon. I'll have him call as soon as he's available.
Yeah, all right. Who's this?
Thank you, sir. I'll be sure to give him the message. Goodbye.
The same goes for unexpected visitors to the house. You're sitting there with the kids, watching TV, when all of a sudden there's a knock on the door.
Is that the doorbell?
The first thing you do not do is open the door. Now let's watch as Bonnie shows us the right way to handle both situations.
Who is it, please?
I've come to drop something off for Mrs. Weber.
What is your name, please?
Mrs. Grant, Sheila Grant.
Okay. Hi, Mrs. Grant. Just a minute.
Bonnie did the right thing in asking Mrs. Grant to identify herself before letting her in. Even though you're expecting a visitor, don't open the door until you're sure it's the person you're expecting. And then be sure to lock the door again after the visitor leaves. The second situation is an unexpected visitor.
Who is it?
Is this the Weber house?
Yes, this is the Weber house. Who is it, please?
Well, this is Ralph Myers. I'm an old friend of Bob's. I'm just passing through town. I thought I'd stop and say hi. Who's this?
Mr. Weber's not here just this minute. I'll be sure to give him your message, Mr. Myers. Thank you very much.
Well, wait a minute. When's he coming back? Can't you even open the door?
No, sir. I'm sorry, but I'm not authorized to admit any visitors. I'll be sure to give Mr. Weber your message. Thank you.
Now, Bonnie handled this situation just the way you should. After asking who's at the door without opening it, you do the same thing you do with a telephone call. You take a message if there is one. But don't identify yourself as the babysitter, even if the visitor wants to know who you are. Don't give out any information about where the parents are or what time they'll be back. And don't encourage any further conversation. Now, if the visitor is persistent or becomes aggressive, you might want to call on that neighbor for help. But as the adult in charge, that's a decision you'll have to make based on the situation.
A few more pointers about security, but hopefully you'll never have to use them. Now, if you think there's a prowler outside, don't hesitate to call a neighbor or even call the police. Stay inside the house with the children, and if they're frightened, we'll do your best to calm them. It's a scary thought, but if you think that someone's broken into the house, take the children, get out right away, go to the neighbors, and call the police from there. Now, the chances are nothing like that will ever happen to you, but you must know what to do in case it ever does. If you're safety and security conscious at all times, you can prevent possible problems. What if a fire broke out in a home while you were babysitting? It's a terrifying prospect, but if you know how to deal with such an emergency, the chances are in your favor that you and the children will remain safe. Fire can strike any place at any time, and statistics show that many fires are started by unsupervised children playing with matches. Make sure that all matches and lighters are put away in a safe place where the children cannot reach them. Also, know where all of the smoke alarms are located. They do help save lives, and by now, most people should have them in their homes. Don't ever remove the batteries in a smoke alarm if something you may be cooking is setting it off. Know where any fire extinguishers might be located. Most homes don't have them, but if there is one where you're babysitting, read the directions so you'll know how to use it in an emergency. Also, find out if the family has an exit drill they may have taught the children. If not, come up with one of your own. Check every room and find at least 2 ways out. One of them will probably be a window, so make sure you know how they all lock and unlock. And tell the children to meet you in a certain place outside if you should become separated. If there is a fire, take the children and get out of the house right away. Don't try to put the fire out yourself, and don't stop to take anything but the children with you. If there's heavy smoke, crawl on the floor on your hands and knees because the air is cleaner there, and make sure the children do the same. Stay calm. If you panic, the children probably will too. Shut all of the doors behind you. This will stop the smoke from advancing for a little while, but make sure that all of the children are with you before you do this. Once you and the children are out safely, don't go back into the house for any reason. Go to a neighbor's house and call the fire department from there or have them do it. If for some reason a child becomes trapped in a part of the house that's cut off by smoke or flames, don't risk your own life. Give the fire department the information as quickly as possible, telling them in which part of the house the child is trapped. One more thing, babysitters, no smoking on the job. Not only is it unhealthy, and it's frowned upon by adults if you're a teenager, but you could cause a fire with your cigarette. Or you could leave matches or a lighter around for the young children to play with. And you wouldn't want to do that now, would you? Now it's time to talk about safety in children, and safety is mostly using common sense. Like, don't let a child play with a sharp object, or don't let a youngster stick his or her fingers into an electrical outlet. But safety also requires some preventative measures. Some of the worst accidents to babies and children happen in the familiar surroundings of their own home. What appears safe to us as adults can be an accident waiting to happen to a child. So remember, children's safety is not their business, it's yours while you're in charge. Now here are some things to keep in mind about different age groups. If you're caring for an infant who's still awake, chances are the mother will give you special instructions. But there are still some things you must remember. Babies need constant attention and supervision when they're not in their crib or playpen. Never leave an infant alone, even for a second, on a changing table, a bed, or a couch. The baby can easily roll off and be seriously injured. Never feed a baby a bottle by propping it straight up while the baby is lying down. This could cause the baby to choke. And watch for baby picking up stray objects because babies put everything in their mouths. Smooth, round objects are especially dangerous for babies and toddlers because they can become stuck in the throat. And watch for babies reaching for things that can tip over. And if you're asked to give a baby a bath, never leave the child alone in the water for any reason. And don't lie down on a bed with the baby. You could fall asleep, roll over, and hurt the child. Babies are generally the easiest age group to care for because of the child's limited needs. And chances are, the baby may be asleep for most of the time you're sitting. Toddlers, those children between 1 and 3, will require your most careful attention and patience. These little ones get into anything and everything. With toddlers, you have to stay one step ahead of their every move. Watch out for them trying to pull themselves up on furniture that may not be steady enough to hold them. And toddlers like to grab things. Make sure it's not the electrical cord dangling down from the ironing board. Make sure they can't get into anything they can't get out of, like cupboards. And if the toddler can reach the locks on bathroom and bedroom doors, be sure you know where there's a key in case the child gets locked in. Keep all children away from electrical outlets. And watch for toddlers falling, which means you have to be very careful around any stairs, even if there are just a few. Children in this age group can get into trouble fast if they're unsupervised, even for a minute. So it's a good idea to take them with you if you have to go to other parts of the house, including the bathroom. With toddlers, it's a full-time job just watching out for their safety. The age group from 3 on up is in a more expanding world. Even though Mom and Dad may now let them go down the block to a friend's house, there are still some things to watch out for. Preschoolers are a curious bunch, and they still don't understand what's dangerous to them or how things can hurt them. Children in this age group, for instance, will run into the street without looking, no matter how many times they've been told not to. This is also the age group that might play with matches or lighters or get into Dad's toolbox. But these children are also the easiest to entertain. These youngsters like physical games of skill, arts and crafts, and reading or being read to. As a babysitter, one of your jobs is to entertain the children, as well as to look out for their safety. A good babysitter will have a number of ways to keep the children happily occupied and out of trouble. While we're talking about safety, we also need to talk about safety in the kitchen. You know, many babysitters aren't expected to or even allowed to cook for the children, so be sure you have your employer's permission before you use the stove or the oven. And if you are allowed to cook, well, there are some things you must know, even if you think you're pretty experienced in the kitchen. The first thing is that children must be supervised very closely in the kitchen, especially if you're using the stove, the oven, or sharp knives. Older children may want to help you, but you should definitely have the parents' permission to do this. Younger children should not be allowed to roam around while you're busy at the stove. They should be secured in a high chair or playpen with something to keep them occupied. Keep all hot things out of the reach of children. Turn all pot handles in so they don't extend over the edge of the stove. From a child's view, a handle can look like something to hang on to, and nasty burns could be the result. Never hold a child while you're cooking. Wear tight sleeves while cooking, and have any older children who may be helping you do the same. Loose sleeves can accidentally touch the burner and catch fire. Never leave the room with something cooking on the stove. And don't let the children near the oven door. It may be hot enough on the outside to burn them. In the kitchen, you have to be doubly cautious because of all of the potential accidents waiting to happen to children. What would you do if a child suffered an injury while in your care? The last area we'll look at is administering first aid for different types of injuries. Children are prone to all types of injuries, from bumps and bruises to broken bones and burns. Should any of these accidents happen while the child is in your care, you have to know how to treat the injury until the parents get home, or if it's serious, until professional help is available. If it is a serious injury, you'll have to call for help, as well as giving first aid. Less serious injuries will be your responsibility until the parents return, and that means you'll have to know how to treat them yourself. Simple bumps and bruises can be treated with an ice pack to keep the swelling down. But if a child is ever knocked unconscious, call for help at once. Simple bleeding can be controlled with a bandage, or if that fails, you may have to apply pressure to the wound until the bleeding stops. Press gently on the wound with a clean handkerchief or gauze. Then apply a bandage or gauze, depending on the size of the wound. In cases of more serious bleeding, heavy pressure may have to be applied while you call for help. Raise the injured part of the body over the head if possible to reduce the flow of blood to the wound. With any serious injury, don't worry about notifying the parents until the child is under a doctor's care. If you think a child has suffered a broken bone, again, call for help. Don't move the child, and don't try to set the break yourself or apply a splint. Leave that to the professionals. For burns and scalds, cool off the burn area with cold running tap water for at least 10 minutes. Never apply butter or ointment unless directed to do so by a professional. And if you have any doubts at all about how serious the burn may be, call for help. And if you think a child in your care has swallowed something poisonous, immediately call the fire department, the emergency medical service in your area, or the Poison Control Center. That number's in the phone book if it's not posted with the other emergency numbers in the house. If a child gets into medicine or cleaning solvents under the sink, be sure to have that bottle or container with you so the medical people can know what was swallowed and how to treat it. If you ever have any doubts about something harmful a child may have swallowed, or how serious an injury may be, don't hesitate to call for help. Too much first aid is far better than not enough.
There's one more thing we need to talk about, and that's choking. It's a very serious problem, but there's a fairly simple solution. It's called the Heimlich maneuver. You might have heard about it. Now, if for a child over the age of 1, you think the child is choking, here's what you need to do. Ask the child if he or she can speak. If the child can't speak, that probably means that the child is choking. So take your right hand, make it into a fist, and put it thumb side in about 3 inches above the child's belly button. Take your left hand, put it over the right hand, and pull inward and upward 6 to 10 times. Then ask the child again if the child can speak. If the child can't, repeat the procedure. And as soon as possible, be sure to call for help. The Heimlich maneuver for an infant is different. If you suspect that an infant is choking, here's what you have to do. First of all, take the child and, supporting him carefully, put the child over your arm. Taking this part, the heel of your hand, hit the child 4 times between the shoulder blades. Then, supporting the child's head and neck, take the child and turn the child over. Now, this is very important. Take these 3 fingers and put them between the nipples on the child's chest. Raise this finger, and these 2 fingers are in the right spot for 4 chest compressions. If the child is still choking, repeat the procedure. And of course, as soon as possible, call for help. The Heimlich maneuver, like all first aid techniques, must be practiced. It's not something you can learn by just watching this program. What we've shown you can help in an emergency, but check in your community to find places where you can get more first aid training.
Hello, it's just us.
Hi, did you have a nice evening?
Yes, yes. How'd it go for you?
Oh, just great. The kids behaved very well. Timmy had a little accident, though, and bruised his leg. I put some ice on it, but I don't think it's anything too serious.
Timmy is always bumping into something. I'll have a look at it in the morning. But thank you, Bonnie. Anything else?
Oh, Mrs. Grant stopped by with your skirt. And Mr. Weber, there's some messages in the kitchen for you.
If you do your job well, this is most likely how your evening will end, with everybody happy and the parents knowing they can put their trust in you again.
Bonnie, before you go, we've been invited out again next Saturday, and we were wondering if you'd be interested in watching the children again?
That's a safe bet.